people joining us virtually, so that's great. And some faces we haven't seen in a while coming here in person, so that's wonderful. We're going to begin with invocation to bless our meal for those of us that are in person. So if you'll stand, I'll do the invocation, and then we will have our pledge of allegiance to the flag I just dragged over here. Okay, let us pray. Let us offer thanks for the blessings of one another and friendship and prayers for those absent friends. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for the opportunity to be a part of this Kiwanis Club and to do good work in our community. Let the feelings of love and kindness and gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. We ask that you bless this food and the hands that prepared it, and may it nourish us in your service. Amen. Okay, and now we will have our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. You may be seated. Now we want to welcome our guest. Derek May, you have a guest with you today?
My guest is Sherry Sanders, longtime friend of mine, my wife, Tara and I, and Sherry's with Blanchard County.
Okay, welcome, Sherry. Thanks for joining us. And we have a couple of people who are visiting with us from the Uptown Kiwanis Club. So, Mr. Barry, do you want to stand up and introduce? I don't think you need an introduction, but if you introduce the young man with you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm Rick Barry, and I'm glad to be among you and real people now for change. That's nice. We've been blessed to have just a few of us meeting in a fellowship hall at a church, Rick Harry's church. And so we've been able to have in-person meetings for 8 months, maybe, it seems like, with the social distancing. And Hunter claims to be the youngest Kiwanian around. He just turned 20 on Friday, or Thursday, or somewhere in there. So, but he is a member, and he's has been a Key Club graduate, and he's also a Key Club advisor for us. Of course, we have no Key Clubs, so he doesn't have a whole lot.
Okay.
But we did have, and we hope they'll regenerate after COVID subsides. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. Okay, now Amika Loggins, the co-chair of our charitable trust drive for this past year, is going to make an announcement, just sort of summarizing it. Amika, if you could come up here so that everyone watching virtually can see you. Here she comes. I'm going to reflect it.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly great to see everyone. This is my first in-person meeting since we had a break, so it's great to be here. I want to say that during the pandemic, the charitable trust, our work was definitely challenging, but I'm happy to say that we made it through. I first want to thank our committee, which consists of Angela Chain, Dalton, Chip, Chip, Gilbert, Lori, and so I hope I didn't miss anybody. So they worked really hard. As you know, we started right in the thick of things, and we were able to work, meet virtually, and get some very good funds
just across the river
collected and passed out. So when we met back in January, we had a little bit lower, fewer applications. However, they were all from good organizations, and we settled on 5. And those include the West Side High School Advanced Placement Academy. And basically what their mission is college applications for certain children or youth who may be underprivileged. As you all know, the cost of college and education has not gone down, it has increased. And they want to make sure that they're providing a grant that would significantly benefit those students who wouldn't necessarily be able to apply to those colleges. And so we were able to provide a scholarship to them in the amount of $1,200. And that organization was submitted by Gil Clemens. Next, we have Camp VIP, which was nominated by Lowell. And as you all know, Camp VIP is a day camp for children who are in foster care. And this scholarship to them, or this grant to them, would help offer camp opportunities for those children for Camp VIP, and basically help enhance their experiences so they can also enjoy what we want all of our children to have, that camp experience. Next, we have What Friends Are For, and that was nominated by Dalton. And the mission of that organization, they help rescue dogs and cats in the area that suffer from neglect, abandonment, abuse, and unfortunately even death. And these programs, they help not only spay and neuter assistance, veterinary medical expenses, vaccines, emergency veterinarian care, and also education classes for responsible pet ownership. It's very important that we help continue the rescue of animals, and we thank that organization for submitting. We also provided a grant to Good Neighbors Ministry, and that mission is to build relationships within the Harrisburg community with the Harrisburg community and strengthen that community. This program was called Boys with a Future, and it was basically designed for 10 to 12 middle school boys that meet 3 times a week with the director and 3 men volunteers. So I'm reading off my phone. With 3 men volunteers, and the volunteers are usually retired school teachers, and they basically conduct tutoring sessions and help the children receive opportunities to experience culture and participate in other sports activities. And last but not least, the Boys and Girls Club, which was also nominated by Lowell, I believe. And program for this one is to offer a variety of programs designed to empower youth to excel in school, become good citizens, and lead leadership and show, and also help with mentorship. The club, if y'all probably always familiar with, they provide a safe, clean environment for children to learn and grow. And so each one of these organizations did receive a $1,200 scholarship. And then we also provided $5,000 to the scholarship fund. And so that's what we've been working with, and that's what we've done. We thank everyone that participated and helped us to these grants. Most of the people who nominated these organizations have presented them with the actual physical check. We have also ordered this big giant check, which we hope in the future, as we kind of get through with the pandemic, to actually do a big formal presentation to each one of those organizations. My hope is also to have those organizations come back and share with the club how that scholarship and those grants have helped them in their mission. And so we can see the good work that we are doing. So be looking for that in the future. If we're not able to do it in a club setting, either via Zoom or in person, hopefully we'll be able to have our members that nominated them present the check, maybe in their setting, and maybe videotape it or take some pictures and share it with you that way. So stay tuned for that. We'll be working on that. And it was a pleasure serving as your co-chair this year. Thank you.
Thank you. And in addition to the money that went to the scholarship fund, we're also going to be giving $5,000 over for our pledge to the Children's Hospital of Georgia. That was part of our centennial celebration. And we'll be giving that first installment. We're doing $5,000 over 10 years, $50,000 total over 10 years, $5,000 per year. And we're going to present that to AU at our June 7th meeting. I also want to provide an update on the Sam Tyson scholarship. Some of you donated to that, and I want to know what's going on with that. It now has over the $25,000 that we needed to permanently endow that. So Lowell and I, along with Cheryl Tyson and Dan Rogers, met last week with the CSRA Community Foundation to finalize the details of that scholarship. It is going to be an annual scholarship of $1,500 for a high school senior who is an Eagle Scout. The application will be posted on the CSRA Community Foundation's website and advertised by the Scouts on their website and shared with all local schools. The scholarship recipient will be chosen by a committee of Kiwanis members who are also Eagle Scouts. The plan is to solicit applications immediately so that the first scholarship can be awarded this summer for the next academic year. Once that recipient is chosen, Dan Rogers intends to promote the scholarship and then solicit donations to the fund from all the Eagle Scouts in the area, so we can hopefully have that fund grow even more and maybe award more than one scholarship. I also want to make sure everyone's aware of our slate of officers that will be voted on at our next meeting, which will be May 10th. The nomination for vice president is John Robertson. The board members are Robbie Moore, Roddy Kitchens, John Vincent, Larry Knox, and Trey Few. And then Nick Uros is the nominee to be on the scholarship trust committee. The Indianapolis Club, you remember we did an interclub meeting with them back in March. They have invited us to an interclub meeting that will be this week on April 29th at noon. The president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway will be their speaker. I will send the Zoom login later today if you're interested in attending that. For a history lesson, I have a long one, but I'm going to just send it to Pat to include in the quad notes, because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our speaker. I'll just kind of shout out what the history lesson is. It's not a happy one, so maybe it's good that we can skip it. Just so you guys know, April 25th is the anniversary. Is it the 25th or the 26th? Well, I have the date wrong too, so never mind. Anyway, yesterday was the anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear power station in Soviet Union back in 1986. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but they tried to hide it. If you know your history. And it wasn't until the people in Sweden noticed the air quality and were like, something's going on here. And then they were like, oh yeah, we had a nuclear incident. So I'll send it to Pat and you can read more about it in Quad notes. Okay, so now I want to do the attendance prize. If you remember pre-pandemic, we used to sort of rotate that around in the alphabetical list because we're not sure who else coming in person. We're asking people to volunteer, and Catherine was trying to twist some arms on the way in. Thank you. So if you want to volunteer to provide the attendance prize, I have the sign-up sheet, and we can definitely get you a slot to do that. We're asking that it be a $10 to $15 gift card so that we can include the people who are here virtually, and I've filled out attendance slips for those people so that they're in the stack too, so we can mail it if they are one of the ones that win it. This week, our President-elect Troy Lanier has provided a gift certificate to Somerville ACE. So it's a $15 gift certificate to that. So I'm going to ask our speaker, if you don't mind, if you'll come choose one of these slips for me to choose our award winner. Amika Loggins. Look at that. Come back. See, this is what happens when you come back in person. You win a prize. Congratulations. It was not rigged, I promise you. Okay, now I'm going to turn the program over to our president-elect, who is going to introduce our speaker, Mr. Troy Lanier, to introduce H.B. Bradley. Oh, and if you're done eating, put on your mask.
Thank you, Martha. We're very fortunate to have with us today Mr. H.B. Brantley. H.B. is based out of Atlanta, but he has been hired by the Augusta Richmond County Coliseum Authority to serve as the project executive for the new James Brown Arena project. H.B. has over 30 years of experience as a project manager. He has extensive experience in working on a lot of projects that we're familiar with, like the State Farm Arena, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and for all you Crimson Tide fans out there, one of which is one of our guests, Nick Dickinson. He's a huge Alabama fan. HB's also worked on Bryant-Denny Stadium, so that was very interesting. HB was educated at Tuskegee University, where he obtained both undergraduate and master's degree from that institution. Please give a warm Kiwanis welcome to HB Brantley.
Good afternoon, everybody. Put a presentation mode, if you could.
Looks like a light truck. Isn't there some?
There you go.
There we go. Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you guys having us here on board. I want to make sure that we acknowledge the ARCA board chairman, Mr. Cedric Johnson, and also one of our project team members. And also one of our project team members, Mr. Nate Nichols with Dixon Architect. Thank you for, well, this process has been a very grateful and thankful process, and we're going to hope this manifests itself into a real project for the residents, both Augusta and North Augusta. I'm going to kind of take you through a process where we were engaged in January of 2020, and it's really a three-phase process in terms of how we're going to deliver this project. The first phase, one of the things that ARCA did correctly is to conduct a market analysis so they can understand the processes and the steps to go through regarding how, what size project or facility
Put this
we needed.
closer so that
Good.
they can hear you.
Good. So the ARCA hired our team as well as a market analysis firm out of Chicago, 100 Strategic Partners, to conduct a market analysis, which is phase one. That process culminated in a report and a presentation to the public, to the commissions, as well as the authority on October 17th through 2020. September 17th, I'm sorry. So I'm going to. Okay, next slide. So one of the things I want to do is kind of take you all through the process in terms of how we got to where we are and let you know. But it's a three-phase process. The first phase is market analysis, which was culminated last year. We're now in phase two, which is kind of the design phase. We have Perkins and Will as an architect on board. And phase three is the ultimate construction. Obviously, those have coincided with different funding milestones that we've had for the project. So what I do, I want to take you through the market analysis and some of the conceptual design processes that we went through to determine the size of the facility. We had to make sure this facility was right size for the city of Augusta. I mean, there are those that say you need to have a larger facility, some say smaller, some say why one have one at all. But our market analysis indicated that the cost of indecision far exceeded the cost of the decision not to do anything. So based on our study, we realized it had to be a arena size of 300,000 square feet, which is equivalent to about 10,000 seats. We realized also that we need to have, you know, based on some of the events that are out there, the lower bowl had to have seating capacity of 6,500. And what the current arena does not have right now is some premium seating. So we think there's a market for about 1,100 low seating club and premium level seating options in the new facility as the market analysis identified. And we also have 12 suites that can accommodate 16 or 18 people. So one of the things that we looked at is, okay, now that we have some idea about the size of it, let's start talking about some of the functionality of it. Some of the components that we looked at also, the ballroom, need to have meeting rooms for, I think somebody mentioned earlier, what's my sports guy? There he is, right there, okay. Talked about having meeting space. And we had administrative space for Spectra, who's the management group that's operating and managing the venue. But we also, more importantly, and that last line you see there, it has to have a physical connection to the existing Bell Auditorium to make it one complex. That's one of the unique things about this particular project is it's physically connected to the Bell Auditorium. And you'll see that in some of the design concepts as we move forward. So Now that we know what it is and how big it is, let's talk about a summary. So what we did was we developed a cost estimate based on a conceptual design on what this facility would cost, based on some of the earlier drawings that we have, and as well as the market analysis. So our total price, and you probably see this number floating out in public right now, is $228 million all in for this particular project. Okay? We do have a parking deck as an alternate, ballroom as an alternate as well. We're not saying, and we'll have a discussion also later about the parking, we're not saying not build the parking deck, but let's look at that in phase 2. And you'll see why as we go through some of the analysis that we went through earlier. Where are we now? SPA.C.E passed March 11th with about 72% of the vote. We're thankful for that. That indicated some of the work that was validation, some of the work that we've done early on in terms of getting voter confidence and public confidence about the process of the project. We also, in the schematic design phase, we had a presentation to the ARCA board, to the commissioners, to some of the other stakeholders on March 11th and the run up to the March 16th SPLOST vote. That went very well. So now we're in the first phase of a 3-phase design process to get ultimately to some construction documents. Also realize we need to have further validation of those schematic design documents. So we have retained the services of what we call a pre-construction cost consultant. The ARCA was clear about we want to make sure we got some real numbers from a contractor that's built these facilities before. So we have under contract now PCL Construction to help us with some of the design milestone and schedule or cost estimate exercise as we go forward. We also conducted a public survey for some input in the food and beverage options. I'll go through some of those a little later, maybe 3 different summaries in terms of what we found out, what the public would like to see in a new facility. We're also going to be having some more engagement meetings, public engagement meetings, as things open back up. We want to make sure that in addition to these meetings we're having with the social and civic groups, that we have those directly with the community as well. So we're in contact with the commissioners regarding scheduling those particular those meetings. We're also, more importantly, we're working with the city and their finance department regarding a funding structure on how this particular facility can be constructed and funded for phase 3. All right, some of the food and beverage options. What do you think of Augusta when food and beverage comes to mind? So these are some of the results that we received of over 800 or 900 responses to a survey that was put out to the public. So what do you think of Augusta when food and beverage comes to mind? Barbecue, burger, soul food, southern cuisine, pimento cheese, of course, pizza, wings, seafood, steak, craft beer, local crafts, and hot dogs. Okay? And that was just one of the, say, 10 or 12 questions that we had. Next slide. We have 2 other questions that I want to highlight. Next slide. What's your top favorite local restaurant? So these are some of the top 10 responses that we received, and some of these may be on your top 10 list, I don't know, but if we skip one, we'll be happy to add that to the list as well. Some of these things you may be familiar with. Some may or may not translate to what we're trying to accomplish in the arena, but it helps us to get this feedback from the community. Next slide. Okay, so we're getting to some of the more design concepts now in terms of our response to the building program and the planning program, the market analysis. But also I want to make sure that before we go any further, I didn't touch upon this during the market analysis, before we get too deep into the design, is that our market analysis showed that there's going to be about $436 million in economic impact in terms of new jobs. It's going to be like 400 new jobs created over the period of 30 years of the bond issue. And there's also going to be $28 million in new taxes generated as a result of this project. The ARCA is committed to having a lot of those funds stay local in this community. So within the gap budget that we're operating under now, we have about 38% of that is currently going to local and historical underutilized businesses. So now we'll move to the concept. You can see there at the very top of the screen, that's the existing Bell Auditorium. And you see right in between the new arena at the bottom, there's a connector. We wanted to make sure that we didn't create what's called a back door or a front door. So you see there, right across the street is the parking lot. The ARCA that's already obtained of the trucking company that's located right there on the corner. It's going to be part of our parking lot layout. We currently have, with this particular concept, about spaces for about 1,100 cars to park on site. That's on-site parking. So we're not saying don't build a parking structure now. We're saying we think there's enough in the vicinity to accommodate the existing demand. Let's do that in phase 2. Next slide. So speaking of that parking, national plan standards have shown us that within a 15-minute walk is what's considered feasible and comfortable and for most people to walk to a major event. So we retain the services of national engineering companies, Kimley Horn, as well as local company ISM, Infrastructure Systems Management, to help us with a parking analysis. So their studies indicate within a 6-block radius of the new facility, there are 5,000 spaces that are available that can be used both on-street, off-street, structured, unstructured parking that can be used for this facility that's within a 15-minute walk. Next slide. So I'll go back to the previous slide. So one of the things we did was we drilled down a little further on this particular slide and said, okay, we have 5,000 that's within a 15-minute radius. Let's look at what we think is optimum. Optimum to us is 3,000 spaces. So we have another 3,000, well, we have within that 5,000, 3,000 spaces that we consider optimal, that are conveniently located, that are in parking decks, that will be underutilized after hours and on street and off street. So we wanted to make sure we provided for that. So with the advent of rideshare also, we had to look at the impact that that would have on the new facility. No longer are these facilities being planned in vast parking lots. We're looking at how we can accommodate rideshare as a method of arrival to these new events. So having done that, we also had to look at a shuttle system and how we can have parking, a shuttle system circulating in counterclockwise measures to the existing parking. Go to the next slide now. So you see that, so we worked with our transportation consultants to identify a shuttle system that could take people to and from the event during major events. Because if you can imagine a fully loaded complex where you have this particular facility that accommodates, say you have 10,000 people there, and you have another 3,000 in the Vail Auditorium. And just so happen there's an event that's going on similar to this at the same time. So you're talking about, upwards of 13,000, 14,000 people. So we need to be able to get those people to and from the area. So we came up with a concept that we're in conversation now with the city to make sure that they sign off on it in terms of one way to get people to and from the facility. Next slide. So one of the things we also wanted to make sure we did was we looked at what the competitors were doing in other cities. Within say a 3-hour drive, there's about 10 million people. Okay, if you go all the way up to Charlotte to Atlanta, to some of the more heavily populated areas. So what Augusta is more compared to is Savannah. And you can see they're kind of southwest of where we are now, or southeast rather. So they are currently building about a 9,500 seat facility. And it's supposed to come online actually at the end of this year or first quarter of next year. So we're always getting compared to them. So in our competitor statistics, you look at the average capacity from those different arenas that we looked at 13,000, premium seats 1,400. And the unique about it is nearly all were built or renovated since 2010. So our particular facility is almost 40 years old. So, and it no longer fits the needs and requirements of current active tours. So let's go into the concept a little bit. I want to look at so what you see there is an image of a project that I just happened to work on in Atlanta. That's the Statesman Arena. And that's looking at it from what's called the social bridge, looking down to the main concourse. And you see the social gathering spaces on that level. We had an opportunity, we in the ARC had an opportunity to tour that facility to look at the quality, the fit and finish of those spaces, as they relate to concourse, as they relate to the event floor, and that whole experience. So the takeaway was that, sure, we like that, but this particular project cannot compete obviously with NBA money, so it's a different market, so we have to appreciate what we have, but we can have some very unique spaces to Augusta to see that as we go along. So next slide. So what you see there is the existing area photograph. You see right across the street, there's a parking lot. You see the current James Brown Arena configuration that are diagonal. You see the gap space between the Bell Auditorium and the reconfigured arena or the existing arena. You also see the parking lot that's around it. So the parking lot across 7th Street from it, you'll see also that there's a slice of it that's missing in the lower right corner, and that's the trucking company I was telling that we have since acquired, that we part of the complex. Next slide. That's a concept we looked at from earlier. Okay, next slide. So getting into some of the various aspects of the building design, what you see now is somewhat of an isometric of what that plan looks like. That's the, sorry, we got a little overlap there in terms of the text. But what you see there on the far right top end, that's the side coming in from the Bell Auditorium. We wanted to make sure we had that connectivity there to the Bell Auditorium and create this whole promenade along the bottom side there. That's a pedestrian promenade that connects the Bell, that connects the back of the house, box office, ticket function, as well as the new arena space there. So, and I tell you, we wanted to make sure we didn't have a front door or a back door. So coming into the front of the building, or the 7th Street, I should say, you come right into it, you see the box office, you see some meeting rooms, and right above there, and you'll see this on one of the next slides, is you have some meeting space pretty much like this, and a roof terrace that's joining it. The gray areas represent some of the back of the house functions. The good thing about this new facility, the existing facility, is that a lot of it is below grade. So we have a lot of water issues there with the existing arena. And this particular new concept, you're going to have it at grade level. In other words, the event floor is going to be at plaza level. So you can imagine being at a trade show, you can walk right in from the plaza and walk straight into the event floor. Next slide. All right, that's the main concourse. The thing about having the event floor on the plaza level is you have to go up one level to the main concourse level. So this is going up one level to the main concourse. You can see some of the social areas down to the bottom, as well as to the left. So one of the things I do want to talk about here is that right in the center, right next to the ring, you see that little connector piece in gray and kind of a rust color and the tan color. That's the relationship we'll have in terms of that's one of the unique things about this in terms of having a meeting space, as well as an outdoor terrace space. Some of our national planning studies have shown us that there are a lot of venues that are looking how to have some adjacent outdoor space. I don't know if it's a pandemic, probably it's a pandemic that's affecting that thinking, but they want to have some open spaces that's controlled. So similar to this space right here, as it relates to the roof terrace outside, you'll have meeting space that's related to a roof terrace outside as well. This particular room is about 3,000 square feet. The meeting space there will be about 9,000 square feet. So you can imagine the 3 times the size of this. But also have the commensurate amount of roof terrace space on the outside. Next slide. All right, suite level. That's where we have the 12 suites, the 1,100 premium seats, the lounge boxes, and some of the things, one of the features that we're going to have on this is kind of unique to the market as well. It's what we call open back suites, where you have some heavy drapes and all of that, and they have their premium choices outside of the concourse. One of the unique features about this one as well, you see on the corners there, on the bottom of the arena, there's some exterior terrace space on both corners, where people on this level can also go outside to the roof terrace and be in open air as well. Next. That's the upper level floor plan. pretty straightforward. As I told you earlier, the upper bowl is 3,500, the lower bowl is 6,500 in terms of seating capacity. Next slide. So I was asked earlier about some of the events that this particular venue will accommodate. Well, you see here, we have different configurations for the event, for the venue. The first one you see there, it's a center stage event. The one on the upper left, that's the largest capacity we can have for this particular venue. That capacity for a center stage is 11,500. The next one is an in-stage configuration. In-stage configuration is what these facilities are normally gauged at, because that's going to be the configuration used mostly for performances, concerts, and things of that nature. Our in-stage capacity is 10,400 right now. To give you some idea, the one that's playing in Savannah there is 9,000, about 9,500. So we're about 2,000 more than what Savannah is. Over there, you see a surface of the lake. So, and also at the bottom, you see those dirt events that somebody asked about earlier. You have rodeo, basketball, I'm sorry. You have basketball in the center, and all the way to the end, you have truck pools, tractor pools, and things of that nature. So one of the good things about having the event floor at grade levels is that you be able to bring those pickup trucks and those dump trucks in and put dirt directly on it without having to go through ramps and all of that. So that's a section through the building. And you can imagine taking a knife and cutting a section through a portion of it. You can see how some of the vertical spaces relate to each other. You see the plaza there, area where the green space is. Walk straight in, and you see the event floor there. So to give you some idea of the height and scale of this particular project, the current existing arena is about 50 feet above grade, which is equivalent to about a 5-story building. At the apex there, this building will be 100 feet tall, and the equivalent of that is the Marriott Hotel, which is 11-story building, about a riverfront. So you can see the upper bowl, you see the premium level, the main concourse, and the event floor, and how those spaces relate. There again, that's another section through it. You see at the very top there. One of the good things about this new venue is that it has the clearance that's required in terms of the rigging, as well as the capacity to accommodate some of those larger shows that we cannot currently accommodate. You see the relationship with the upper concourse, again, the suite level, the main concourse, and the event floor.
I saw that.
So we have some of the renders that you all may have seen. And by the way, these particular drawings, they're on the www.newjamesbrownarena.com website, so you can see these at any time. To get into some of the exterior architectural components here, and I won't be much longer, I promise you. To get into some of the exterior architectural components, one of the things that we challenge the architects is that they have, Augusta has very unique architecture. So we wanted to make sure that we did something that was indigenous to the area, but also complements some of the existing architecture as well, but also being unique and iconic and something that stands out for this area. So having said that, the architect, Nick as well, did a great job in terms of coming up with a concept that met the program in terms of being iconic and also utilizing some of those indigenous materials that we talked about. So you see the brick there, it's hung like in a vertical pattern to mimic curtains being pulled back to a performing arts stage. And the glass infill there will be viewed as the stage. And you see the metal panel roofs there in various different colors. For some reason, the architect showed the rain scene here. I see how to pick it up. Okay. All right, some more images. You can see the roof terrace up on the left-hand side and how it relates to the spaces on the inside.
Or are they relocating it?
That's the plaza area. One of the things we challenged the architect with also was to come up with some landscaping that was interesting, topographically interesting, not just a flat piece of green space. Because we feel that when there are mounds and earthen berms and things of that nature, it's more inviting for people to come and lay on, sit on, and experience it. So everywhere we had an opportunity, we tried to create a mound or something like that. And also we're going to be using some was planted to, that's gonna be indigenous to this area as well, in terms of flowering trees and mosaics, things of that nature. That's the interior shot of the promenade with the Bell Auditorium, utilizing some of the existing brick. It's kind of a generic look right now. I know it looks clean, but you know, this is a concept. And as we go along, these spaces become more defined, but it was really just shown to give you some idea of the scale of the space, not necessarily the quality of the finishes. All right. What you're gonna see next is a series of premium seat slides that shows the effect of how those spaces can be used. You see it's open to the seating load. The quality of the space in that. So we're going to be coming back to groups like this once we understand what the valuation of these particular assets are. Because premium seat sales is important and want to make sure that there's every opportunity for the local community to be engaged in that premium seating options that are going to be available, as well as some of the suite sales. Right?
And not the, Bell. Yeah, that's the Civic Center.
Another example of suites. Next.
Dang.
That's an example of somewhat of a low seating. Next. Suite. Relationship of the premium level to the event floor. That's one of the premium social areas in the on the premium seating level. And that is a fully loaded end of stage maxed out capacity concert. And that's the last slide. I apologize it took so long, but there you have it. So I'll turn the floor over to questions if there are any. Yeah.
HB, I noticed in your marketing attachments, you did not include the city of Greenville, South Carolina, as compared to which is very similar to this market. Was there a reason for that? Or?
Well, it was up there. Did you not see it on the graphic?
No, I guess I didn't. I was looking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we tried to incorporate all those cities in Greenville, Greensboro also. And actually Greensboro has the larger arena because they're the ones that attract some of the NCAA basketball tournaments in Greensboro. Yeah, Greenville, South Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina, all the ones that are adjacent were included in this assessment.
Good.
Yeah.
When does construction start and when you anticipate it will be done?
Good question. And I thought I had a slide in there that talked about schedule.
I missed that if you did, I'm sorry.
No, believe me, something may have happened to this schedule. Certainly, to answer your question, this is a three-phase project. The first phase was this whole market analysis, which was completed last year. The next phase, the current phase we're in now, is the design phase, which started end of December 2020, January 1st, 2021. It will take us to December 2021. It's when the architect will have construction documents complete. So in addition to that, we have a bond referendum, which hopefully will get support that we need to get the project going in November. So that's one of the things we have a finance team working with our financial advisor and working with the city of Augusta to look at the funding equation. And there's going to be a public referendum on the ballot in November 2021 that will hopefully facilitate phase 3. So phase 3 is the actual construction of the project. So before you do any construction, one of the things we're doing is we are replacing the existing arena with a new arena. So there was one thought, let's just leave the new arena, the existing arena in place till we get a new one built, but that kind of doesn't really work well because we want to put this in the right location. To get the operational efficiency that you need in terms of having that back of the house serve both the Bell and the new arena, we have to take down the whole first. So again, to answer your question, it's kind of a protracted answer, but I want to get the full picture. So we're projecting that we're going to be booking events in the existing arena from now until end of January of 2022. Then we're going to start decommissioning in February of 2022. And March 2022 is when we're actually looking at demolishing the existing James Brown arena. So that whole process is going to take about 28 months, and we're projecting construction to start second quarter next year and take it to September 1st, 2024 before it's completed, and we have a ribbon cut ceremony. Sorry, it took so long to get to that date.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What kind of hurdles do you anticipate? Any hurdles?
Yeah, well, anytime you deal with a project this scale, magnitude, complexity, the biggest hurdle is always the funding hurdle. And so far, we've been blessed and fortunate to be able to make a compelling case to the public, to the authority, to the city, and the stakeholders that this is a important project for the community. So we have been able to overcome those hurdles. But we have one huge hurdle to overcome, and that's the last funding piece, is the referendum in November. So between now and November, we'll be doing a big push in terms of getting the public information they need regarding the funding equation and how that affects everyone. So funding, to answer your question, I'd say it's funding. But also with that, we're hoping to have a little luck as well, because we realize the state of the current economy in terms of what construction materials are. Depending on which economist you listen to, the construction material is going like that. But at some point, it's going to level out. Then it may level out for a while, or it may take back off again. We want to hear where it levels off. So that's why we're saying first quarter next year as well. So we'll be on the way with construction. We've been told that the initial surge post the pandemic is happening now in terms of ramp up on the construction cost. That's going to level out first quarter 2022.
Okay. I think we're about out of time. Unless, well, thank you so much for that really informative presentation. And we have a gift of a Kiwanis bell for you. You can take to remember us. And thank you so much for coming. Let's give him a round of applause. And I hate to volunteer more of your time. If you did have questions you didn't have a chance to ask, I think you'll probably be here for a couple minutes more if anybody has any specific questions. Our next meeting will be May 10th, so we're staying on our every other week schedule. Our speaker will be Dr. Debbie Von Toole. She's of Augusta University, but she's going to be speaking about the Augusta Press, the new independent newspaper that has been launched, and she's going to bring a couple of the other people that write for the paper as well. So that's going to be an exciting topic. We will be back at the North Augusta Community Center, so just right down the road. This will also be our annual meeting where we will be voting on our slate of new officers and board members. So you want to make sure you attend for that. And I'm going to leave you with a thought for the week, looking at all of this, how the city is going to change. The thought for the week is about change. We cannot be afraid of change. You may feel very secure in the pond that you are in, but if you never venture out of it, you will never know there is a such thing as an ocean. So I'll leave you with that. Also want to mention, when Amika spoke, she didn't mention Chip was part of the city ministries or nominating them. So we want to give him a shout out for bringing that philanthropy in. And thanks to everyone who donated that we were able to make all of these generous gifts to these important organizations. So everyone have a good week, and we'll see you back on the 10th. We stand adjourned.